Good morning, my dear friends in Christ, and happy Sunday to you all. Today, I welcome you all to the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time in the Church's calendar year A. Today, our reading shall be taken from the book of Sirach, chapter 27, verse 30, 28 to 7. The letter of St. Paul to the Romans, chapter 14, verses 7 to 9, and the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, 21 to 35. And today, we shall be reflecting on the theme, God's forgiveness is unlimited. One of the main features of today's media technology is the issue of data. The amount of data available to us determines how much and how long we can work or access the internet. Currently, many of the service providers do offer unlimited data plans, but as experience shows over and over again, those unlimited plans are not always unlimited. In many cases, your download speed gets throttled down when you cross a certain point. Today, however, Jesus gives us the unlimited plan par excellence. Unlike our telecommunication companies, Jesus' unlimited offer is real and without a shadow of doubt. And that is the lesson of today's gospel. We must learn to forgive without limit, no matter the offenses committed against us. This teaching of unlimited forgiveness comes just after Jesus had given a lesson to his companions on being good shepherds. Therefore, it is possible that the disciples, reflecting on that, wondered among themselves how many times a good shepherd should go after the same sheep if he keeps wandering away over and over again. In those days, the rabbis thought that forgiveness was limited to 3 times only. That is, a fourth transgression was not to be forgiven. But by asking the Lord how many times he could forgive his brother, it is possible that Peter was aiming to increase the limit to 7 times, while the other of the disciples were insisting on the rabbinic tradition. To gain some clarity, Peter approaches the Lord, and this is God's final word spoken to man on this issue, who makes it clear that we must forgive others not 7 times, but 70 times 7, as we see in Matthew chapter 18, verse 22. And when we sum 70 times 7, it gives us 490 times. That is, we must forgive our brothers daily 490 times. We translate to mean that forgiveness should be indefinitely, forgiveness should be practical, and forgiveness should be part of us. In Jesus Christ, we have the forgiveness of a debt we could never pay. That is, the debt of sin. Sin here is a terrible offense against God. It is a direct and violent rebellion against his humanity and for creation. The debt of 10,000 talents mentioned in today's parable is an image of the enormity of the offense that sin causes in God's eyes. But God is always willing to forgive, and there is no limit to his mercy. Little wonder Pope Francis says that the name of God is mercy, and he's never tired of showing mercy and forgiveness to his children. But we can cut ourselves off from the ever-flowing mercy of God. And that is the point that Jesus is making today. When we refuse to forgive others, we restrain God's mercy and put ourselves under strict justice. We also cut ourselves off from the fountain of divine mercy. But if we offer an unlimited bundle of mercy to others, we draw God's unlimited forgiveness upon our lives. I know it is imminent and inevitable that hurting others is bound to happen anywhere at any time human beings find themselves. Each time and at a place human beings are gathered, naturally some toes are going to be stepped on. We cannot avoid the situation. It is simple part of the give and take of life. But the moment and event when we step on each other's toes, do we try to forgive and make amends, or do we seek for personal revenge or vendetta? Unfortunately, friends, I must tell you, and it is so pathetic, that we are in a generation of proud people who are head-bent in not saying I'm sorry or I forgive you. A generation that can afford to lose 1 or 3 years relationship because of unforgiving spirit. A generation where a woman prefers to pack her belongings from her husband's house back to her parents' house because of some tolerable and amendable issues. Instead of suing for peace and reconciliation, they sue for the bond of marriage to be broken at all cost. A generation where a man prefers to lose his marriage and glory in his ego and pride by turning down on advances and opportunity to make peace and forgive his spouse and rebuild his home again. A generation with outlandish rates of divorce and separation. A generation where everyone is right and no one is wrong, even in the face of impending or existing rift, without letting go and allowing God. A generation that prefers to be at loggerheads for weeks, months, years, rather than spilling out the words of I forgive you, I love you, and I'm sorry. A generation that judge and condemn others rather than appreciating and commending others. A generation that celebrates and canonizes unforgiveness, hatred, violence, conflict, religious and political wars, using materials for developing the world for making weapons of mass destruction. A generation where we have not failed to see massacres of human beings, no sanctity, dignity, and respect for life again. Listen to the news and see the rate of domestic violence. How many people are stabbing their partners to death because of the absence of forgiveness in their lives? Marriage has crashed, and once happy homes have now become cinemas for Mortal Kombat Showdown and rings for heavyweight championship, because some new generational couples feel that forgiveness is not worth giving a consideration. A generation that feels too big to say I'm sorry and I forgive you. They think that practicing individualism and I-aloneism is the answer. That is a community of unforgiving spirit, bigotry, backbiting, slander, and the likes, other than a communitarian spirit that love, forgiveness, togetherness, and mutual respect thrives. St. Paul tells us in our second reading that we do not live for ourselves and we do not die for ourselves, which means that we are not islands and we can only exist meaningfully with others in our lives. So hence, we must exist in a harmonious manner. We must exist in love. We must exist in happiness. And when our neighbor, our brothers and sisters offend us, we should be ready to forgive and to forget. And just as Ben Sirach says in the first reading, that resentment and anger are foul things, and both are found with the sinner. Anger and wrath, these are abominations. The vengeful will face the Lord's vengeance. The vengeful will face the Lord's vengeance. So therefore, forgive your neighbor the wrong that he has done. If a man nurses anger against another, can he then demand compassion from the Lord? No, it is impossible. It can never happen. I know in some people's mind now, they will be saying that, what is Father saying? You think it's easy to forgive? Then what will be the story of a man whom a girl lied over his head, over certain things, and he's been condemned to face some prison term? And he has been there for years. When he comes out, will it be easy for him to forgive? What would you say about a woman who a boy and his friend gang raped her only daughter to death? Would it be easy for such a woman to forgive? What would you say about a man who beats up his wife in moments when she's pregnant and this has led to several miscarriages? Will such a woman forgive that man? What are you saying about a marriage that is almost to be contracted and they have been together for years? Just weeks before that marriage, the man dumps the woman and went for another woman. Will it be easy for such a woman to forgive that man? Some people will say, no, it is impossible. And what will the man say is that after the woman has left himself and their children to suffer in pain and penury, and when things are now rosy again, she comes back. Will it be easy to forgive in such a situation? I know that there are also many other severe cases that might look impossible to forgive at the face level and at the peripheral level. I know that the hardest thing to do is to forgive and to let go. But really, we must do so because of the injunction we have received today. I've observed that we find it difficult to forgive because most of the time we pay attention to the hurt. We pay attention to our ego. We pay attention to our pride. We pay attention to the individual person that must have caused us these pains. And sometimes we feel that vengeance will bring about some form of reconciliation and relief. But surely, I tell you most solemnly, it will not. It might only bring about a temporary joy. It might only bring about a temporary consolation and relief, but forever you will live with the scars and the consequences. Friends, our focus should be the one who gives us life and the one who is never tired of forgiving us. If you remember, he says, if he should mark our guilt, who will survive? Nobody is deserving of his mercy. Therefore, friends, we too are sinners. We must learn to forgive those who hurt us, even though when it is difficult. We hear several times, forgive and forget, but I put it to you that forgiveness begins even though you remember the pains, but you do not pay the person back in his or her own coin. As a matter of fact, Jesus on the cross, in his excruciating pains, says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And after the resurrection, he was still carrying the wounds of the crucifixion, but he did not take it on the people that, oh, why did you do this to me? Why did you put me to death? Why did you condemn me to death? And all of that. No. He gathered his disciples once again and he continued to advance the mission of his Father here on earth. My dear friends in Christ, at every point in time of our lives, we must be ready to forgive. At every point in time of our life, we must be ready to let go. Our greatest treasure as Catholics is the revelation of Christ, the perfect expression of God's boundless mercy. The only force strong enough to penetrate and pull apart the walls of pain, anger, fear, and resentment that we have built around our hearts, which we experience more at the confessional. In any case, God's mercy is infinitely greater than that of any person, because it is a covenant sealed in the blood of His only Son, and there is no greater love and mercy than that. So let us continue to pray for the good Lord to give us the grace to continue to forgive at all times, to let go, and to be at peace with Him again. Peace be with you.